Talira's eyes opened to darkness. Cold metal pressed against her back. Her wrists were heavy, wrapped in tight chains that hummed with a strange power. The air smelled of oil and burnt metal. Somewhere far away, she heard the deep hum of engines. She knew this sound, the sound of a human warship. Her heart sank. She had lost. The last thing she remembered was the battlefield fire. Smoke, the crash of metal on metal, then a bright flash, then nothing. She tried to move. But the chains burned her skin with each attempt. They were not just chains. They were energy restraints, designed to weaken her muscles. Her breathing was slow, heavy. She knew humans were not known for mercy. If the old stories were true, they would kill her soon, maybe quickly, maybe slowly. Her people told tales of human cruelty, of prisoners who never returned. The cell door hissed open. A shaft of white light cut into the darkness. Her eyes narrowed, adjusting to the brightness. She expected to see a soldier in black armor, holding a weapon. Instead, a man walked in. He was tall but not heavily built. He wore no armor, only a dark jacket and simple boots. His hair was short, his face calm, his eyes sharp but not unkind. In his hands, he carried a small black box. It was not a weapon, not anything. She recognized. He walked slowly, his steps steady, no fear, no rush. He stopped just a few feet away from her, placed the box on the floor, and sat down. Talira stared at him, confused. Humans did not sit with their prisoners. They questioned them, they threatened them. But this one just sat, watching her. Finally, he spoke. "You don't know the whole story, do you?" His voice was calm, almost quiet. It didn't match the image she had of human warriors. Her throat was dry, but she forced herself to speak. "I know enough," she said bitterly. "You are my enemy. Kill me and be done with it." The man tilted his head slightly. "If I wanted you dead," he said, "you would not be here." His words were strange, heavy with meaning she couldn't yet see. She wanted to spit at him, to curse him, but something about his eyes stopped her. There was no hatred there, only something else. "What is that?" she asked, nodding toward the box. He looked at it, then back at her. "Something you need to see," he said. He didn't touch it, didn't open it. He just let the words hang in the air. Talira's instincts told her this was a trick. Humans were clever. They used traps that played with the mind before they struck the final blow. But a small part of her, a part she didn't like, was curious. She had never seen a human carry something like that into a cell. "You think I will talk to you?" she said coldly. "You think you can make me betray my people?" He shook his head. "I don't need you to betray anyone. I need you to understand something." Her chains felt heavier. The silence between them was long and tense. Finally, he leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why we're really fighting?" Her answer was ready, the one she had been taught since she was a child. "Because you humans are greedy. Because you take what you want." He gave a short, almost sad smile. "That's one version," he said, "but not the truth." Her jaw tightened. "The truth? You dare talk to me about truth after burning my cities?" Something flickered in his eyes, not anger, but pain. He didn't argue. Instead, he tapped the box once. It gave a soft beep. The top split open. A faint blue light spilled out, casting moving shadows across the walls. Talira's breath caught. Inside the box, a small holographic projection began to form. It was a planet, not just any planet, hers. She could see the forests, the wide silver rivers, the mountains glowing under the twin suns. It was beautiful, untouched, alive. Her chest tightened. She had not seen her home look like this in many years. The war had taken most of it away. How? She started, but the words stuck in her throat. The man didn't answer. He simply said, "This is what it was." Before the war, she felt heat rise in her chest. Anger, confusion, longing. Why would a human show her this? Was it to mock her? To remind her what she had lost? He leaned back, resting his hands on his knees. "I will tell you the rest," he said, "but only if you listen." Talira's heart pounded. She wanted to refuse, to shut him out. But the image of her home, green and whole, burned in her mind. She could not look away. The cell was silent except for the hum of the ship. The man waited, calm and patient. Finally she said, "Speak," somewhere deep inside her. She knew this was not going to be the death she had expected. Asterisk. The blue light from the box still danced across the cell walls. Talira could not stop looking at it. Her home, before the war, was so clear. Every tree, every river, every mountain felt real enough to touch. But it was not real. It was only a memory. Trapped inside a machine, the human sat silently. Letting her watch, he didn't rush, didn't push her to speak. Finally, the projection faded. The lid of the box closed with a soft click. Darkness settled in again. She felt a strange emptiness, as if something had been stolen from her twice. Once by the war, and now again by the darkness. She looked at him sharply. "What game is this?" she demanded. His voice stayed calm. "No game," he said. "I'm offering you something." She almost laughed. "Offering?" "From a human to a prisoner." "You must think I'm a fool." He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "I'm offering you a choice." She narrowed her eyes. "What choice?" "To live," he said simply. The words hung in the air like a blade. Her people had a saying, "Only the desperate believe in mercy from an enemy." She was not desperate. "Not yet. You think I'm afraid of dying?" she said coldly. "I think you don't know why you would be dying," he replied. That made her pause. He was speaking in a way that didn't fit with the stories she had heard. This was not the voice of a conqueror. It was the voice of someone trying to show her something. "You want me to beg," she said, trying to regain control. But he shook his head slowly. "No, I want you to see the truth. If you see it and still want to die, I'll let you." The calm way he said it unsettled her more than any threat could. She had met humans on the battlefield. They were loud, furious, relentless. This one was quiet, dangerously quiet. She felt as if he could see through her armor, past her anger, right into the place she didn't want anyone to see. "You said you have something to offer," she said slowly. "What is it?" Instead of answering, he reached into a small pouch at his side and pulled something out. A thin metal strip with a glowing edge. Her heart skipped. It was a release key for her restraints. He held it between two fingers. "I can free you," he said, "but only if you listen to something first." Talira stared at him. This made no sense. Humans didn't free prisoners without a reason. They used them, traded them, interrogated them. "What's in it for you?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. That's for you to decide." Her eyes flicked to the black box. "What was that projection? Where did you get it?" He leaned back, his gaze steady. "From our archives," he said. "Your world was mapped by human explorers over 100 years ago. We kept the data." Her mind raced. Why would humans have such records? And why show them to her now during a war? "This is some kind of trap," she muttered. "If it is," he said softly, "then it's a trap you can walk out of right now, with your life." For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. The hum of the ship seemed louder, the walls closer. She didn't trust him. Every instinct screamed not to. But something deep inside whispered that he wasn't lying. It was the same feeling she'd had once as a child, standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the waves. Fear and curiosity tangled together. "What happens if I refuse?" she asked finally. "Then you stay here until the war decides your fate," he said. "And if I accept?" He nodded toward the box. "Then you'll see more than just a picture of your home. You'll see the truth of the war. Not your leader's version, not mine. The truth." She studied his face. It was calm, patient, but there was a flicker in his eyes, something like hope. She didn't know why that bothered her. Hope was not something you gave to an enemy. Her mouth was dry. "Why?" "Me?" she asked. He hesitated before answering. "Because I think you're strong enough to choose for yourself. The words hit harder than she expected. Strong enough to choose her whole life. Choices had been made for her by generals, leaders, orders. The idea that she could choose something, anything, was dangerous and tempting. He placed the release key on the floor between them. Then he pushed the black box toward her. "No tricks," he said, "just answers." Talira's eyes moved from the key to the box. Her hands ached against the restraints. Her mind ached against the questions. She didn't know if she could trust him, but she did know one thing. She needed to see what was inside that box again. She took a slow breath. "Show me," she said. The human's eyes softened, and for the first time, she thought she saw relief in them. He tapped the box, and the blue light spilled into the cell once more. Only this time, the images that appeared were not of her home. They were something far darker. The blue light from the box brightened, spilling strange shapes into the cell. But this time, the projection was not green forests or shining rivers. It was fire, cities burning, ships falling from the sky. Screams, so many screams, echoing, as if the sound itself had been trapped inside the box. Talira froze. Her mind told her this was propaganda, another human trick, but her heart knew the streets in the image. She had walked them as a child. She had played by those markets. Now they were nothing but ash. The human Elias didn't speak at first. He let the images move one after another, not fast, not loud, slow enough for each detail to sink into her bones. She saw soldiers, not human soldiers, her soldiers. And they weren't fighting humans in these images. They were forcing civilians into transports. Some resisted, some didn't get the chance. Talira's breath caught. "That's a lie," she said quickly, her voice sharp. Elias didn't flinch. "Watch," he said. The projection shifted. Now it showed the inside of one of those transports, packed with frightened faces. Children, the old, the sick. She recognized their clothes, their speech. They were her people, but not her soldiers. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "From one of your own," Elias said. "A deserter who wanted the truth recorded before they died." Her stomach twisted. The scene changed again. This time, she saw a battle, one she remembered well. It was the day she earned her warrior mark. She had believed they were defending a city from a human attack, but here, she saw it from a different angle, from above. The humans weren't the first to fire. Her own side had opened the battle. The enemy base she destroyed that day was a human relief station. She saw the wounded, the unarmed, the medics, all crushed under the assault she had led. She took a step back without thinking, her chains clinking in the silence. Her chest felt tight. Her voice broke. "No, that's not how it happened." Elias's tone was quiet, but it carried weight. "It's how it happened." He didn't sound like he was accusing her. He sounded like someone telling a hard truth. She hated that tone more than anger. She could fight pity. She could not. The projection shifted again, now to her homeworld's war council chambers. She saw her leaders, laughing, drinking, discussing battle plans not for defense, but for resource capture. The war was not about survival, it was about control. And they were using her people, using her to take it. Her hands shook. "This is a trick," she whispered. Though it sounded weak even to her own ears, Elias leaned forward. "Do you think I would risk bringing you here, showing you this, if it was a lie? Do you think I want you to hate me less? I don't care if you hate me, Talira. I care if you see." Her name in his mouth startled her. She had never told it to him. "How do you know my name?" she demanded. "I read it in the report from the field," he said. "The same report that said you were worth saving." She blinked. "Worth saving?" "Yes," Elias said simply. "Because you can tell the truth to the ones who still believe the lies." The images faded. The box closed. The cell seemed smaller now, hotter, quieter. But inside her there was no quiet. Only a storm of memories, doubts, and a question she did not want to face. Had she been fighting for the wrong side all along? Elias sat back, watching her. He didn't press her for an answer. Instead, he said, "I told you, I'm not here to make you betray anyone. I'm here so you can decide if the war you're dying for is worth it." Her mind screamed at her to reject it. Her pride told her to spit in his face. But another voice, smaller, quieter, but impossible to ignore, whispered, "What if he's telling the truth?" The cell felt colder now, not because the temperature had changed, but because the images from the box had left a hollow space inside Talira. It was the kind of cold that didn't touch the skin, only the heart. She sat in silence, her head low. She didn't want to look at the human again. Every time she thought about those recordings, her chest tightened. It was easier to look at the floor than at his face. She expected him to speak, to keep pressing her with questions. Instead, she heard the soft sound of cloth shifting. When she glanced up, Elias was holding something in his hands, small, round, wrapped in a thin sheet of paper. He placed it on the floor between them. "Eat," he said. Talira stared at it. "What is that?" "Food," he said simply. "Yours, not mine." Her eyes narrowed. "How could you possibly have my people's food?" He gave a faint smile. "Humans collect things. Sometimes we keep them for reasons even we don't understand." She didn't move. Her pride told her to ignore it. Her stomach told her otherwise. Hunger had been gnawing at her for hours, but it wasn't just the hunger. There was something about the smell drifting from that paper. Warm, faintly sweet, with a spice she had not tasted since childhood. She remembered it suddenly, the soft, flaky bread her mother used to make, served at the end of harvest days. It had been many years since she'd smelled it. She felt her throat tighten. Elias didn't push it toward her. He didn't try to tempt her with words. He just sat there, letting the smell fill the space. After a long pause, she reached forward. Her chained hands made it clumsy, but she took it. The paper crinkled softly in her grasp. She broke off a small piece and tasted it. It was warm, real. The flavor hit her like a memory she'd been trying to forget. She chewed slowly, her eyes stinging for reasons she didn't want to admit. "Why?" she asked, her voice low. Elias leaned back, his gaze steady. "Because someone once did the same for me," he said. "When I was your enemy." Her eyes flicked up. "You were a prisoner?" "Yes," he said. "And one of your people gave me food when they had no reason to." He paused. "It didn't stop the war. It didn't save lives. But it changed mine." She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to tell him kindness in war was weakness. Another part wondered if maybe it wasn't. Elias pulled something else from his jacket. A small, thin metal disc. He tapped it, and a faint tune began to play. It was not human music. It was from her world. A soft, slow melody sung in her people's tongue. Her breath caught. She knew this song. Her father had sung it to her on nights when storms rattled their home. It was a song of safety. A song that promised tomorrow would come, no matter how dark the night felt. You keep this?" she asked, almost whispering. Elias's expression softened. "Some things are worth keeping." For a long time they sat in silence. The bread warm in her hands, the old song curling through the cold air. For the first time since she woke in this cell, she didn't feel like prey waiting for the strike. She felt seen. When the song ended, Elias spoke again. "I don't expect this to erase everything," he said. "But sometimes the smallest thing can open a door." He glanced at the black box. "And I need you to walk through that door before it's too late." She looked at him for a long time. There was no demand in his voice, no threat, just a strange, quiet sincerity she couldn't make sense of. She didn't trust it, but she couldn't dismiss it either. Talira set the half-eaten bread on her lap, and for the first time, she asked him something not out of anger or suspicion. "What exactly is it you want me to do?" Talira's question hung in the air. It wasn't a challenge this time, not an accusation. It was the kind of question a person asked when they truly wanted to know. Elias didn't answer right away. He studied her face for a moment, as if measuring how much truth she was ready to hear. Finally he said, I want you to deliver something. Her eyes narrowed again. So you want me to work for you? She said. No, Elias replied. I want you to work for yourself, for your people. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, clear crystal, no bigger than his thumb. It shimmered faintly in the dim light. This, he said, holding it between his fingers, has everything you just saw in the box. And more. Her eyes locked on it. It was light, fragile looking, but she could tell it held weight far greater than its size. Information was more dangerous than any weapon. She knew that well. You expect me to hand that to your spies? She asked coldly. Elias shook his head. I expect you to give it to someone in your council. Someone you trust completely. She almost laughed. You think trust exists there? You think anyone in power will listen? His voice stayed calm. They'll listen to you. That caught her off guard. She was used to being a soldier, a fighter, not someone who changed the course of politics. What makes you think I'd risk my life for this? She asked. Elias's gaze didn't waver. Because I think you care more than you pretend to. The words landed heavier than she wanted. She looked away. That's dangerous talk for a human, she muttered. Truth is always dangerous, Elias said. Silence stretched between them. But it wasn't the sharp silence of distrust anymore. It was something quieter, something that felt like the space between two people who were trying to decide whether to step closer or step away. Talira shifted slightly, the chains clinking. You talk like you've been on both sides of this war, she said. Elias's jaw tightened. I have, he said simply. That answer pulled her eyes back to him. You fought for us? She asked, surprised. I fought for whoever I thought was right at the time, Elias said. Turns out I was wrong more than once. She didn't know why, but that admission hit her differently. Most humans she'd met boasted of their victories. They never spoke of being wrong, and here he was, telling her openly, without shame. It made him seem not weak, but human in a way she hadn't expected. What happens if I take your crystal and destroy it? She asked suddenly. Elias gave a faint, almost tired smile. Then I'll know I misjudged you. And if you're right about me? Then maybe, he said. This war ends sooner than either of us believe possible. She hated that a small part of her wanted to believe him. It was dangerous, this feeling, like standing too close to the edge of a cliff and leaning forward. Just to see how far you could go before falling. To break the tension, Elias reached down, picked up the half-eaten bread, and set it back beside her. You should finish that before we move you, he said casually. Her eyes narrowed. Move. Me? Where? To somewhere safer, Elias replied. That's not possible, she scoffed. I'm a prisoner. His lips curved in the faintest smirk. Prisoner is just a word until someone decides otherwise. She studied him again, trying to fit the pieces of this human together. The calm voice, the strange kindness, the dangerous truths, the quiet confidence. It didn't add up, and she was starting to realize that maybe he wasn't meant to. For the first time, she didn't see him as only an enemy. She still didn't trust him, but he was no longer just the human. He was Elias, and that was somehow worse. The hum of the ship seemed louder than before. Every sound, the creak of metal, the faint hiss of the vents, pressed against Talira's ears. Elias sat in silence, watching her the way a soldier watches the moment before a battle begins. Then, without a word, he reached into his jacket and pulled out the small metal release key. It glinted faintly in the dim light. For a moment, she thought he was going to put it back in his pocket. Instead, he leaned forward, slid it across the floor. It stopped just in front of her knees. Her eyes narrowed. This is another test, she said. Elias tilted his head slightly. Everything is a test, he replied. But this one only you can pass. She stared at the key. Her wrists ached from the restraints. Freedom was right there. One small movement, and she could unlock herself. She could be gone before he realized what she was doing, or at least that's what her instincts told her. You trust me enough to give me this? She asked, her voice edged with suspicion. I trust you enough to see what you'll do with it, Elias said. That answer irritated her more than if he had said nothing at all. She reached forward slowly. The metal was cold against her skin. She didn't move to unlock herself. Not yet. Her eyes stayed on his face, searching for a sign of fear, hesitation, anything. But he just sat there, calm as ever. What happens after this? She asked. You leave this cell, Elias said. Simply. And you decide what to do with the crystal. You're just going to let me walk out? She scoffed. Yes, he said. But walking out is the easy part. What comes after will be harder. Her fingers tightened around the key. She could hear the steady thrum of her own heartbeat. It was absurd. A human freeing a warrior. From the enemy side, if she left, she could warn her leaders. She could hand over the crystal to the council and claim she had escaped on her own. She could keep the war alive, or she could do what Elias wanted. The thought made her chest feel tight, not because she feared betraying her people, but because she feared what it would mean if she didn't. You really believe I'll help you? She said finally. Elias shook his head. I believe you'll help the truth. Those words lingered. They didn't feel like orders. They felt like a burden, one she wasn't sure she could carry. Finally, she pressed the key into the slot on her wrist restraints. With a soft click, the bands unlocked and slid to the floor. Her muscles ached as blood rushed back into her hands. She flexed her fingers slowly. For the first time since she woke in this cell, she was free. Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out the crystal. He held it out. She didn't take it. Not yet. You understand, he said quietly. Once you take this, you can't unsee what's inside it. And you can't give it back without deciding who you are in this war. Talira's gaze flicked between him and the crystal. She could almost feel the weight of it already. It was small. Too small for something that could decide lives too. Small for something that could decide hers. Her hand hovered. She hated herself for hesitating. A warrior should act without doubt. But doubt was all she had left now in the end. Her fingers closed around the crystal. It was warm from his hand. She slipped it into the pouch on her belt. I haven't promised you anything, she said. Sharply. I know, Elias replied. But you've promised yourself something. Whether you realize it or not. The cell door hissed open. A narrow corridor stretched beyond it. Elias stood and stepped aside. The path is yours, he said. Talira stepped forward. But she didn't walk out immediately. She stopped at the threshold, glanced back at him, and for the first time, she saw not an enemy, but a man she didn't yet understand. Then she turned and walked into the corridor, each step echoing like a drumbeat, each step carrying her closer to a choice that could save or destroy them all. The corridor was narrow, the lights dim. Talira walked quickly, the crystal hidden in the small pouch on her belt. Every step away from the cell felt both lighter and heavier. Freedom had weight, and this freedom came with a question she couldn't ignore. 2 human guards were at the end of the hall. They didn't stop her. They didn't even look surprised. One simply pressed a button, and the outer doors slid open, revealing a docking bay. A small shuttle waited, its engine humming. Elias stood beside it. He didn't speak when she approached. He just held out a thin piece of metal, a ship access card. You can take this shuttle anywhere, he said. Even home? She asked, her voice sharp. Especially home, Elias replied. She stared at him. Do you really think I won't hand this crystal to my leaders and let them use it against you? I think, Elias said slowly, you'll do what you believe will save the most lives. It was maddening. He spoke as if he knew her better than she knew herself, as if her choice was already made. But she hadn't made it. Not yet. She stepped onto the shuttle. The door closed behind her with a hiss. Through the small viewing window, she saw Elias watching her, not with suspicion, not with triumph, with something she couldn't name. The shuttle detached from the docking bay. Stars filled the window. The hum of the engines was steady. She reached into her pouch and pulled out the crystal. It sat in her palm like a piece of frozen light. Her mind spun with possibilities. She could land at the council's fortress and hand it over. She could smash it on the ground and end this strange human's plan. Or she could play it, find out everything, and then decide. She tapped it. A small beam of light rose from the crystal. Elias's voice filled the small cabin. Calm but urgent. If you're hearing this, you made it out. I don't expect you to trust me. I don't even expect you to like me. But you've seen enough to know your leaders have lied. What you do next is yours alone. Just remember, peace is harder than war. And if you choose it, you'll be fighting a different kind of battle, one worth winning. The message ended. Silence filled the shuttle. Outside, her homeworld's twin suns glimmered in the distance. She was heading straight toward them. Her hands tightened around the crystal. She could see the council chamber in her mind. She could see Elias's calm eyes in the cell. Both visions pulled her in opposite directions. The shuttle's autopilot beeped, asking for final landing coordinates. Her finger hovered over the controls. One tap, and the course would be set. One tap, and the choice would be made. Talira took a slow breath. She looked once more at the crystal, then at the stars. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and she pressed a button. The screen went black.